All right, good morning. Welcome back to those of you that joined us. We are in person as well as online and streaming. So this is the second Good Morning Truckee that we're back after the pandemic, and it's nice to see some faces that we recognize. And for all of you in the metaverse or ether world out there, welcome as well. So this is being recorded, and you can watch it on TahoeTruckeeMedia.com or Truckee.com. And we want to start out by thanking our sponsors: Tahoe Forest Health System, Auerbach Engineering, Dixon Realty Truckee Tahoe, JK Architecture Engineering, Porter Simon, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, Tahoe Truckee Media, Sierra Sun, Moonshine Inc., 101.5 Truckee Tahoe Radio, the town of Truckee, who's letting us use their council chambers today. Thank you. And the Truckee Tahoe Airport District. And as always, we want to thank our committee that puts this nice presentation together, Good Morning Truckee, and it's Lynn Saunders, who's in the back here, Ruth Gersey, Caroline Pacheco, and Melissa Williams. And also, we want to thank the members that serve and putting the presentations together and selecting what we listen to and get presented each month, and that's Kelly Cutler of CAT, Naomi Elegado of Moonshine Inc., Ernie Grossman, who's here, Gerald Herrick, the Fire Department Board, Tony Lashbrook, Jim Porter of Porter Simon, who's out and about on an adventure, Deb Ryan of TTCF, and Ted Owens of Tahoe Forest Health System. And as always, we'd like to thank our AV team and Rory, who's in the back here, Tahoe Truckee Media for handling all the AV, and again, the town of Truckee for making this possible and letting us be here. And as we used to do prior to our hiatus, we are going to go around the room and do introductions. So if you could just give a little brief statement about who you are and what you do and why you're interested in being here. Start with you, Ernie.
Ernie Grossman, I've been here a long time.
Here we go. Use the mic.
Yeah, Ernie Grossman, I've been here a long time. A lot of good things.
Good to see you again. All right, Kelly.
Kelly Cutler with the Contractors Association, CAT Community Project, and the Truckee Chamber Board of Directors.
This microphone is so that the people that are watching on TV and in Zoom can hear.
Phil Kenny with Tahoe Truckee Brokers.
Brenda Stark with Shakes International Real Estate.
Carissa Dinkley, I'm an analyst with Nevada County. I support the CEO's office and Board of Supervisors.
Brian, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation.
Caroline Cathy, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation. Nicole Lutz-Moore, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation with the Stump Speeches program.
Stacy Caldwell, Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation.
Shannon Moon, Gould, Nevada County Sheriff.
Jesse Wilson, District Attorney.
Alfred Knotts, Town of Truckee.
Amy Schaller, Aegis Insurance Markets, and current chairman of the Board of Directors for the Chamber.
James Stark, pastor of Jacob Community Church and biblical archaeologist.
Interesting.
Ted Owens, Tahoe Forest Health System and Chamber Board member.
Lynn Saunders, Truckee Chamber of Commerce. Back to you, Raven.
All right, and I'm Raven Whittington. I'm an attorney with Porter Simon and also a member of the Chamber Board. So this morning, if you are online, you can ask questions by texting 530-412-3719 or put your questions in the chat on Zoom, and we'll be taking those after we have any questions from the people that are in the room today. And we have a good presentation. We're going to have Jesse Wilson, who's the Nevada County District Attorney, give a presentation, as well as Shannon Moon, who is the Nevada County Sheriff, Stacy Caldwell with TTCF, and Alfred Knotts of the town of Truckee. So we'll have a little broad scope of what's going on in the county as well as the town with trails, forests, law enforcement, etc. So we're going to start with Jesse Wilson, who again is the Nevada County District Attorney, and he's running unopposed in the June election. He was appointed last year by the Board of Supervisors to fill the remainder of Cliff Newell's term, and he has a passion for law and justice and takes pride in serving the citizens of Nevada County. His focus is keeping our community safe and wholesome place And before serving with Nevada County, he was with El Dorado County, but prior to that, he was, I believe, Deputy District Attorney here in Nevada County for 6 years. So he's really familiar with the area, with the county, and happy to have him here and happy to have him serving as the District Attorney. Jesse?
Thank you, Raven. I appreciate the introduction. And good morning to everyone. Again, Jesse Wilson, and I appreciate the opportunity today to formally introduce myself as District Attorney of Nevada County. As Raven pointed out, I was fairly recently appointed. It was June of 2021 when the Board of Supervisors appointed me to the role of District Attorney. I took the office in July, so while it feels like a much longer span of time, it's been a little less than a year since I've actually been in the position. So I also appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about the office, some of the things we're doing, a little bit about myself, some of the services we provide, the direction of the office as I see it, as well as some general views of the criminal justice system as I see it as well. So on a personal note, from Sacramento, went to UC Davis, law school at McGeorge. My wife Lisa and I, along with our children, live in Nevada City. Our kids go to school in the Nevada City schools. On that same personal note, very happy to report that the transition to the Nevada County community for my family has been a very positive one, and for that we are extremely grateful. So that's good news. On a professional note, I'm a career prosecutor. So I started my career in Nevada County as a prosecutor with the District Attorney's Office here in Nevada County in 2010 as an intern. Throughout the course of my prosecution career, I've handled just about every type of criminal case that there is in the various stages of the adjudication process all the way through jury trial. So this includes DUIs, robberies, burglaries, sexual assault, sexually violent predator cases, domestic violent cases, homicide cases. I've conducted dozens of jury trials, the majority of which have taken place here in Nevada County. Specifically, more than one has taken place at the courthouse here in Truckee. So, from an experience perspective, I'm qualified to be District Attorney of Nevada County. The central function of the District Attorney's Office is to prosecute crimes within the borders that take place within the borders of Nevada County. That's our central function. That'll remain our central function. Since I've taken office, I've maintained that as a priority and tried to do that and effectuate that in the most efficient way possible. With that being said, in order for a District Attorney's Office to be truly effective, properly serve the community, to do everything that it can in order to take the steps necessary to protect the public, in addition to that central function, it has to include integrity, it has to include an adherence to justice. So as a prosecutor, as a career prosecutor, I was always taught that we wear the proverbial white hat at all times. Through the course of my career, my observations, my experiences, and what I've seen, at times that's easier said than done. So there can be a tendency in this position, in this profession, to work outside the rules, to justify something that you think is right and do something that would compromise what is actually right in accordance with the law. So in this particular position, that's not acceptable. It's something that can't be done. And this expectation that we operate within the confines of justice, within the confines of the law at all times is something that I've striven for the entirety of my career. In taking office, it's something that I made a priority to implement at every level in the organization, and I'll continue to do that as long as I'm District Attorney. That's one of the #1 priorities. So, talk about the office itself, the structure of the office. There's myself, Assistant District Attorney Bob Burns. In addition to us, there's 10 more attorneys in the office. We have 4 victim advocates, 6 investigators, a total of about 10 support staff in the office itself. We have a location in Nevada City is our main office. We have a satellite office here in Truckee. The current staffing of the office, that's also good news. We are staffed for the first time in over 2 years. We're fully staffed. That includes an attorney that we've hired recently that's dedicated solely to the collaborative courts in Nevada County and deals with quality of life types of crimes in accordance with other service providers in the county, law enforcement agencies as well. So that's good news. The structure of the office, we have these attorneys, we have a support staff, we have our advocates. We receive on an annual basis, on average, about 3,500 to 4,000 reports from law enforcement agencies per year. Our attorneys review those reports. They make an independent determination as to whether or not, one, a crime was committed, and two, whether or not we're going to prosecute those cases. Out of the 3,500 to 4,000 annually that we receive, we end up prosecuting about 70% of those cases. Out of the 70% of the cases, usually 95%, sometimes a little more, are resolved in the way of plea bargains. From a prosecution's perspective, some of the factors that go into plea bargaining include, of course, the severity of the conduct, the impact that it had on a victim, the danger that it poses to the public, any criminal history, lack thereof, input from the victim, input from the victim's family, and then also trying to gauge if this particular case went all the way through jury trial, what kind of sentence that individual would receive from the judge at the conclusion of a jury trial. So all these factors come in to negotiating with the defense bar and reaching a plea agreement, which happens in the majority of cases. And that's not just particular to Nevada County, but that's the way that it works usually in all DA's offices in the state and across the country as well. So we have a victim advocates unit. They service about 450 to 500 victims a year. There's been a substantial uptick in that in the year of 2021. That's been about doubled. Some of the factors that go into that is a little bit speculative, but it would include a backlog of cases that due to COVID, and then also an uptick recently of some more serious cases which require additional services to be provided by that unit. I would say the majority of crimes in Nevada County, that includes the eastern slope as well as western slope, surround substance abuse, property type of crimes. With that being said, one of the goals in coming into the office is to create an office with attorneys who are able to handle specifically general crimes as well as crimes that are particularly pertinent to Nevada County. So coming into the office, we continue to have a sex assault attorney, a domestic violence attorney, but we also have an attorney that's devoted to drug sales cases, animal abuse cases, cannabis compliance cases, and some of these particular issues that impact the residents of Nevada County, including, as I mentioned, that quality of life attorney that we recently hired to work alongside law enforcement in addressing that specific problem that is definitely has a direct impact on the residents of Nevada County. So we have this office, we have attorneys that can deal with these general types of crimes as well as provide Nevada County with specific subject matter type experts in these particular type of areas. I would say that the vision of the office and what we try to accomplish here, in addition to this general function, this fundamental function of prosecuting cases, is also worked collaboratively with law enforcement and service providers in trying to do everything we can to address our ultimate goal, which is public safety. In addition, our main function is to prosecute cases, but there's also a proactive approach that we try to implement in the office as a leader in the community. We try to institute different type of programs that can not just be reactive to these different crimes, but can try to do what we can within our capacity to get out ahead of some of the criminal behavior and try to impact that in various different ways. We have a restorative justice program that we're working in accordance with probation right now that should be stood up here pretty soon, and that's going to include our office, probation's office. It'll include the defense bar, as well as our victim advocates unit in accordance with that. So that's an exciting thing. We have other community outreach programs that we're putting into place. We have a Kindness is Contagious program, which is an opportunity for the youth in the community to submit artwork that we will choose a winner. We will award that winner a scholarship in the amount of $1,000, and the winner's art piece will be then displayed as a mural in our MDIC room, which is the room that we use to interview child victims of crimes at particularly vulnerable moments in their life to create a more softer, warmer environment. We have Project LEAD that we just finished up a few weeks ago, and that's something that we've implemented and put in place for the first time in Nevada County. It's targeted specifically at fifth graders, so we send out an attorney once a week in collaboration with law enforcement. In this recent round, it was with the support and collaboration of the Sheriff's Unit and Sheriff Moon, but we go out once a week to these fifth grade classrooms and we teach them about good decision making, the criminal justice system, and it's an hour a week for 12 weeks, at the conclusion of which they have a pizza party, they have a mock jury trial, and it is an evidence-based program that has been extremely successful throughout the state and has certainly gotten initial positive feedback here in Nevada County as well. So these are some of the programs. This Restorative Justice, we have a rotating homeless court that will be starting up in Truckee here in the next couple months, and it's specifically designed to be an informal process where we try to work with other service providers. In this case, it'll be starting out in Truckee to try to interrupt this cycle of repetitive criminality for some of the repeat offenders, to remove certain hurdles that may be in place with these individuals that are resulting in them being repeat offenders. And so we'll work alongside Defense Bar, in particular the Public Defender's Office for this particular program, again, as well as other service providers here in Truckee. And we'll start that here, and we'll start rotating to other areas of the county to try to, again, proactively address some of these issues that impact the citizens of Nevada County on a regular basis, some of these lower level quality of life crimes. So to sum that up, that's a lot of information in a short amount of time, but the goal, the vision of this district attorney's office under my leadership is to be one that efficiently and effectively prosecutes crimes that occur in this county in accordance with justice, and is also proactive in the community in installing programs, supporting existing collaborative court programs, and installing new ones in order to do everything we can to meet that mission statement of protecting the community and providing the citizens of Nevada County with as safe a place to live as possible for everyone's family, including mine. So I, again, appreciate this opportunity and am more than happy to answer questions, whether they are today, and of course, if questions come up down the road, please do not hesitate to reach out. My office, myself, we are accessible and look forward to talking about issues related to the district attorney's role in the criminal justice system in here in Nevada County. So with that, Lynn, do you want to open it up to questions?
Mr. Wilson, given what we see across the country with many offices of district attorneys, how do you propose to perform your duties as district attorney and insulate yourself from local politics?
So, what's going on in other district attorneys' offices is anecdotally interesting, but it doesn't concern me a whole lot. I mean, what concerns me is providing the best services to Nevada County for Nevada County-related issues. I don't have institutional knowledge of what's going on in other offices or the reason behind it, so that doesn't concern me a whole lot. What does concern me is steering clear of interest outside of what my job duties are and what this component of justice is, and that is something that coming into this role I knew would be an issue, because you're talking about a twofold type of situation, right? You're talking about the credibility of the system, the credibility of the criminal justice system, and the appearance of impropriety as well as actual impropriety. So I think with respect to that, the best way to address that is with as much transparency as possible. So making the office accessible to people if they want to come and have conversations. If they anecdotally see something in the media that's reported and they have questions about it, coming in and asking. And then from an office perspective, being as transparent in the decisions we make and why we make those decisions. So that's an extremely important component of what we do on a daily basis, something I take seriously, and something that we're not going to shy away from, and we'll have that discussion with anyone that wants to have it. But it is certainly imperative in adhering to justice and doing the job to the level that Nevada County deserves.
I have a question regarding the restorative justice and collaborative courts.
Mike, it's for the audience that are watching online.
So, a question regarding restorative justice and collaborative courts. For those that haven't been in the criminal system, you typically think, okay, you get arrested, you get charged with a crime, and then you go to jail or spend some time on probation with some jail. So, give us an idea of what restorative justice looks like, the collaborative courts, as an alternative to help people sort of rehabilitate themselves instead of the traditional methods of imprisonment, etc.
Sure, and so these are, well, these have a lot of different dynamics in play. I would say in response to that, it's a multi-tiered answer. One is that the voters of California have made it very clear that as it relates to criminal justice prosecution, they want a much more rehabilitative as opposed to a punitive approach to criminal prosecution in general. So we don't make the laws, we have to follow the laws, and that's the will of the people. So that's something that we are very willing to follow and to support under these circumstances. In addition to that, a lot more of these issues have been pushed from the state level down to the local level. So whether or not we want to deal with them or not, we're having to deal with a lot of these issues as it relates to substance abuse, mental health, and the like. So we don't have much of a choice in the matter but to try to address it with the resources we have. This idea of collaborative courts and restorative justice is not just something like a talking point or something to appease a political side one way or the other. I mean, these are evidence-based programs that have been shown to work. So what it does is it recognizes that there's an underlying issue to the criminality, and it also recognizes that these offenders are coming back into the community at a much faster rate. Okay, so we can have a choice of how we want to address that, but just complaining about the fact that we can't just remove them for long periods of time anymore isn't going to do the job, and it's not going to change what our mission statement is, which is protecting the public. So the collaborative courts are something where we try to divert people at some stage in the criminal process. Sometimes it takes place in a restorative justice fashion. It can take place before the filing of criminal charges, so to keep them completely out of the criminal process and to do a more informal resolution of an issue. And sometimes it takes place, whether it's adult drug court, mental health court, or some of these other substance abuse type of diversion courts, after we prosecute them, to try to, again, unite these people with the type of services that they need for whatever their specific underlying issue is. And oftentimes, as I mentioned, it's mental health, it's substance abuse, it's a combination thereof. So we're lucky to be in Nevada County, where we have a vast amount of resources and very capable people that are able to address these underlying issues. And if we can do that through some of these collaborative courts and through additional courts like restorative justice that are much more informal and interrupt this criminality, it's just going to lead to a better and a safer Nevada County, and that's our objective.
Melissa or Carolina, do we have any in the chat? No? Okay, thank you.
All right, Jesse, thank you so much. We
Okay.
appreciate it. Again, Jesse Wilson, the Nevada County District Attorney.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Good guy. Hopefully you don't have to see him while you're sitting at the defense table, but otherwise he's pretty approachable. All right, next up we have Shannon Moon, who again is the Nevada County Sheriff. And Shannon Moon was elected the Nevada County Sheriff in 2018 and is running unopposed in this June's election. She has over 35 years of experience, and she rose through the ranks of the Sheriff's Department as the first female sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. In 2018, she made history by becoming the first female sheriff. She runs an innovative and transparent community-oriented sheriff's office and strives to protect and serve and make a positive impact on the community. Here to tell us more about her department and her vision for Nevada County is, Sheriff Shannon Moon.
Awesome. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. So 2018 was a very contentious election for me, and I survived. So I won that primary election in June of 2018, and then the general in November, and I became the first female sheriff of Nevada County, but I joined some female partners in the state of California. I am one of 4 female sheriffs in the state of California. So we have 58 counties in California, and 2 of those sheriffs are retiring this term, so there's going to only be 2 of us left. The other one is Ingrid Braun in the county of Mono. She was also elected in Mono County, which is very similar, of course smaller, on the other side of the Sierras over on Highway 365. So a little bit about me. I born and raised in Nevada County. My father was in law enforcement in Nevada County. He spent 29 years with the sheriff's office and the City of Nevada City Police Department as our chief for about 10 years, and then came back to the sheriff's office and retired before I started. So I never got to actually work side by side with my father, but I worked with a lot of his partners and got a lot of good stories about how police work was done in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in Nevada County. So start off a little bit about our office. So our mission is to provide excellence in public service in partnership with our community. The Sheriff's Office, I have 175 allocated positions at Nevada County Sheriff's Office. 73 of those are sworn staff, so those are deputy sheriffs. A little trick with the statistics, that 73 also includes me, and I'm not out actually patrolling streets, so our executive staff is included with that because we are sworn officers. That is a requirement in the state of California to become a sheriff. You have to be a sworn officer. We have 2 canine officers, Ranger and Vito, a German Shepherd and a Belgian Malinois. We just started our program up within the last couple of years, so we're fortunate to have their assistance with us. 67 correctional staff. 13 dispatchers, 4 animal control officers, 18 professional staff, and I think the biggest item on there is I have 25 vacancies right now. So we were talking about that a little bit before our program started. Great resignation, COVID, who knows what's going on. It clearly has impacted all service providers throughout our community and across the state. So we're in the same boat as a lot of folks looking for qualified candidates. So if you know anyone, I'm going to pitch my office for the law enforcement side of recruitment. So sheriff services. So what do? A lot of folks, I think, sometimes put us all together. Police, sheriffs, troopers, state parks, all of us together because we're all cops, right? Well, we are a little bit different. So sheriff services, we provide law enforcement services for the unincorporated areas of your county. And that's the prevention of crime, response to crime, investigation of crime in the unincorporated areas of your county. You take out the incorporated areas of your cities and your towns. For Nevada County, that still leaves us with 932 square miles and about 67,000 residents. So a big area, a lot of population that we serve. What separates us from the police departments and the highway patrol is our mission in corrections. So we, by government code, are mandated to provide a jail for the community. So that is my responsibility. We have 3 facilities in Nevada County. We have our Truckee Jail up here. Maximum capacity is 12. It works for us. Our Wayne Brown Correctional Facility is our main facility in Nevada City. Maximum capacity 283. And then I have a court holding facility in the Nevada City Courthouse that we use temporarily while folks are coming over for court, just for the Nevada City office. Court security also mandated with memorandum of operation with the state. So I provide court security for our 2 courtrooms or courthouses, Nevada City and Truckee. We provide all the service of court documents, subpoenas, summons and complaints, which is your divorce and your paternity lawsuit. So we are in the know. We have the tea before anybody else in your community. Wage garnishments and evictions. So we have deputy sheriffs that go out and serve all those documents in the entire county. I'm also your coroner. So in 48 of the 58 counties of California, your sheriff is also your coroner, which is pretty common in the smaller rural areas because we're out there in the community already. And we determine the manner of death. Not the cause of death. I have a contract with a pathologist, with a doctor, so we're not doctors out there in the field, but we are determining based on circumstances, statements, evidence on scenes, the manner of death. Is it a natural death? Is it an accident? Is it a homicide? Is it a suicide? Or is it undetermined based on all the circumstances? Part of that coroner, very important job duty for us is that we are notifying next of kin of the loss of life, and then we are securing property and remains of decedents. Very important role that we have in the community. And I'm also your public administrator, and we'll go over that in a second. Biggest question I usually get is about traffic enforcement. Who does traffic enforcement? Because that's a big impact. Jesse talked a lot about what impacts you in your day-to-day life, and a lot of time that is speeding up and down the roadways. So in the incorporated area, especially up here in the Truckee area, it's your Truckee Police Department. If you live any of the roadways within the city limits. If it's out in the unincorporated area, that jurisdiction is the California Highway Patrol. No matter if it's a dirt road, no matter if it's an alleyway or a highway, that jurisdiction is the Highway Patrol. So we refer a lot of complaints for speed and traffic issues, parking issues, to the Highway Patrol. So Sheriff Services in Eastern County. I speak a lot in Truckee. A lot of folks want to compare us to Placer County, and they say, well, we see so many Placer County deputies on the eastern side in the Tahoe area. How come we don't see as many sheriff's deputies in the eastern side of Nevada County? And we have to give a lot of credit to your city founders, town founders, when we created the town of Truckee, because they took just about all of the residential areas into the town limits. So we know Truckee is the largest area municipality in Nevada County in area and population. All of that area for law enforcement services, that prevention, response, and investigation of crime, is the Truckee Police Department's jurisdiction. Everything outside of that is the sheriff's office. So we don't have a lot of residential area. We have some. We have some folks that live on the Summit, Plavada Woodlands area that we have calls for service. Well, 89 North, we have some areas, Klondike and Hobart Mills areas is the sheriff's office jurisdiction, and then some on Martis Valley, and some new development clearly is in the county jurisdiction. So we don't have a lot of calls for service in the eastern side that is in a residential area. Our calls for service are usually up on that Summit. With definitely during COVID, we've had a really big increase of access and people recreating up in our beautiful backcountry. So those are the calls for service that we get up in that area. A lot of search and rescue missions, people that get lost or injured up in that area. I have 3 divisions at the sheriff's office, and with those 3 divisions, they're commanded by a captain. So Captain Bob Jacobs is our administrative division captain. He's in charge of the coroner, OES, Office of Emergency Services, record, civil dispatch. Our professional standards unit is our recruitment, training, and investigation of misconduct by employees. Warrants division, we have a property unit, and our finance unit. So when we talk about coroner, we typically average around 600 death investigations for the entire county. That's not every single death that happens in the county. Some are not reportable through the coroner's office. But 600 death investigations, about 200 of those typically go towards an autopsy so that we can determine that cause of death. And on average, we get around 30 to 40 on the eastern side. So in comparison, on the western side, you can see the numbers. We have a great relationship and contract with our Truckee Tahoe mortuary, and they help us with remains here on the eastern side. Of notice, 2021, a pretty large incident. We were here for several days investigating the jet crash that happened in July. We had 6 decedents. Everyone perished in that accident, and we were able to use some rapid DNA technology to quickly positively identify folks so that we can provide closure to the families of those six folks that perished in that accident. Public administrator, that's also a part of my title, sheriff, coroner, public administrator. So when we either cannot find a next of kin for notifications, or if we're in probate and we're not playing nice within a family when we have a loss of a loved one, we are in charge in safeguarding their property until we go through probate. Right now we have 6 open cases, and sometimes those takes a while to adjudicate. So that is the role of the profession or public administrator. Professional standards unit. I think in the climate with law enforcement, we talk a lot about training now and the need to make sure that we have higher than minimum standards of training. But it also incorporates our hiring. And when we talk about 25 vacant positions, on average, when we get over 1,000 applicants, we go through all of our process and we narrow it down to 23 new employees. So a lot of work on the front end, getting people in to making sure that they have a good background, that they don't have any obvious signs of bias, any obvious signs of integrity issues. We really want to make sure that we don't lower our standards for that, and then a lot of training mandates. We have a regional dispatch center. We dispatch for all 4 of the law enforcement agencies in Nevada County. So that's the sheriff's office and all 3 police departments, Truckee, Nevada City, and Grass Valley, all within our regional dispatch center in Nevada City. They're pretty busy in there. Just about over last year, 122,000 non-emergency calls, 30,000 911 calls, and 90,000 calls for service between all 4 of our agencies. In corrections, I have a captain. He's in charge of our Truckee Jail, the Nevada City Jail, the courthouse in Nevada City and Truckee, and our transportation unit, because we do have to provide transportation for those inmates to not only the courthouses, but across the state. Sometimes if you have a warrant and you're arrested in another county, our transportation unit goes down and picks up and brings folks up. So you could be in Riverside County and get an arrest warrant. Just recently in the Truckee area, we had a gentleman that had some arrest warrants in Alaska. They were able to secure him, safely get him into custody. He's currently at Wayne Brown awaiting extradition to the state of Alaska for some sex crime cases. So glad to have him off the street. Truckee Jail. Love that picture of our Truckee Jail. For the mountain community, I think it's fantastic. We're able to collaborate a lot. We get a lot of folks that book into our facility because it's just not convenient for them to book into other facilities. So folks that book into our facilities, clearly the state parks, CHP from 3 different counties, the Fish and Wildlife, our sheriff's office, probation from all 3 counties, Truckee Police Department, and then I also have a contract with Placer County and Sierra County for them to be able to book into our facility. We do not have any medical staff on site, so we partner and we have a great relationship with Tahoe Forest. We're able to make sure that our inmates are medically safe. Try to look at statistics pre-COVID and then after COVID, because it's hard to look at statistics. 2018, we received just over 700 arrestees at that Truckee Jail. This last year, 365. So you see the impact of, one, COVID, but also some legislation, a lot of changes in the laws on felony and misdemeanors. Typically, if a misdemeanor crime in the community is typically going to get a citation and a release in the field unless they meet certain criteria. So that showcases a little bit of COVID response, and then some legislative changes. Courts and transport, I think the biggest thing that we're in the middle of is the Nevada City courthouse is up for a major either remodel or a move to a new build. We're still in the process with that. I sit on the project advisory committee. They did release some draft notices, so we're still trying to figure out what that exactly means. It's a state facility and it's a state process of the court, so we kind of are at their whim. We just try to give them some guidance on efficiencies for us, but we'll see what that happens. They're doing some remodels here at the Joseph Center. Some of that is just staff on the probation and the DA and the public defender's offices. Operations is what you see out in the field. So that's patrol, our investigative units, school resource officers, mobile crisis, search and rescue. Truckee Patrol is a little bit different than the western side of our patrol, because again, we have to be able to get to a lot of remote locations. So calls for service in 2018, just under 1,500 calls for service on our eastern side for us. 2021 increased, and that again is because of that more access, more folks up here recreating, not necessarily being the best stewards of our beautiful backcountry. So we want to make sure that we're out there, we're present, and hopefully we can prevent some of that disturbance and nefarious activity out in the woods. We outfitted a Jeep Rubicon. We have 2 UTVs and 4 motorcycles now that staff use to make sure that we can get out into the backcountry. Our search and rescue team is 120 plus volunteers. They're amazing men and women that live in our community, both up on the eastern and western sides. We typically, on the eastern side, our search and rescue missions are typically on that Pacific Crest Trail over by Peter Grubb Hut. When you get to the saddle, intuitively you want to make a right-hand turn because you think the parking lot's right there, but that will get you right into the drainage. It happens every year, several times. We put signage up, and lovely recreationists like to go out and shoot the signs down and cause the havoc. So we're constantly replacing signs. If you're, we have a motorcycle team on our search and rescue team, and then that's a lot of the folks next to one of our newer snowcats. Love the animal control folks. We have 4 staff. Typically on the western side, the #1 call for service in western Nevada County is an animal services call, which means a couple things for me. 1, we really care about our animals, and 2, I'm glad that it's not a violent crime. That's our #1 call for service, right? There's a reason why a lot of us choose to live in Nevada County. But the animal control staff do just a fantastic job making sure that our animals are safe in Nevada County. On the eastern side, we do a lot of collaborative work with the Humane Society and the Truckee Shelter. But typically, if an animal is recovered in the county, it might through a community member make its way to the Truckee Shelter, and then we'll have staff come bring it down to western Nevada County so that we can make sure that the jurisdictional issues are worked out. So in this first term, it seems like it went by really fast, 4 years, 3.5 technically. I think the biggest things when I look at the accomplishments that not just me, it's an entire team of folks that work at the Sheriff's Office, but we assigned a lieutenant to the Office of Emergency Services. And prior to that, we had no connection necessarily with the County Office of Emergency Services other than in the emergency and you're out and you're trying to figure out who resources. So I have a lieutenant now assigned, and they run the most of the emergency operations center. So they're right there, helps us with our pre-planning. We've done some really amazing things with some technology, some software through Zone Haven. So you know your zone. Everybody should know their zone in Nevada County, whether you're in the western or the eastern side. If you need help figuring out your zones, make sure you hit me up, then I'll walk you through how to figure out your zone. But it's a pre-planned, pre-mapped out area. So you know when we say evacuations are occurring, typically from wildfire, but it could be from really anything, that you know it's time to go when we do our evacuations. Started a mobile crisis team. Really proud of this project. It's pairing licensed clinical social workers with our deputy sheriffs. We have 2 that are out in the field. What we do on the Truckee side with our partners at Behavioral Health is we, again, look at the community and the differences in the community and not cookie cutter it. I think it's amazing what Behavioral Health has been able to do with, they have a licensed clinical social worker. They're not paired with an officer or a deputy, but they're available to the Sheriff's Office, to the Truckee Police Department, and the Placer County Sheriff's Office. So really across jurisdictional lines, they're able to help people in the field for law enforcement if we need assistance with someone with a higher level of training and ability on working with someone in crisis. We started our K-9 program with the great relationship I have with the CEO's office and our Board of Supervisors. I've added 5 new positions at the office, 1 lieutenant, 2 deputy sheriffs, 1 correctional sergeant, which is up here in the Truckee Jail, and 1 correctional officer. This year we're assigning 2 deputy sheriffs to work with code compliance with cannabis, parking issues, and Board of Supervisors security. We still have a lot of very contentious meetings on the western side at those Board of Supervisors meetings, and it takes a big toll of having security staff there. So we're going to assign those deputy sheriffs for that. And then just doing a lot of increased training. We need to stay up on the mandates and provide a heck of a lot more than minimum standards. It's a pretty complex job. We want to make sure our staff are ready for everything. This next 4 years, we are moving our dispatch center from the Wayne Brown facility across the highway down the road a bit to the old juvenile hall facility in Nevada City. We're updating our entire radio infrastructure. It's a $6.4 million project. We were able to secure some funding through community project funding through earmarks, which has been amazing. We haven't started that project, but it definitely got signed off, so we're excited about that. Creating a training center, so the rest of the juvenile hall facility is open, and hoping to take the rest of the building so that we can create a training center there. We need a firearms range. We don't have a firearms range. ADA compliance in our 3 facilities. It's a big money item to making sure that all of the jails are ADA compliant. You'd think when they were built, right? You build based off of the requirements at the time, and they were not required, but now they are. So we're doing a lot of retrofitting on doorways and such. We are ready to complete the software upgrade here at our Truckee facility for security, and I'd really love to be able to remodel that Truckee Jail. The larger Tahoe forest gets, if you see the picture, our radio tower right there doesn't really get out too much with Tahoe Forest being right next to us. We're either going to have to move that radio tower. Fortunately, it's aimed at Mount Rose. We have some microwave equipment on Mount Rose that hits, and then it goes to the rest of Western Nevada County. So, but those are the projects that I have, and really honored to be the sheriff of my hometown. Born and raised in Nevada County. I was able to work a couple of years as a Truckee sergeant up here. So really we can't do our jobs without the collaboration with all the other agencies, especially in Truckee, where everyone is looking at limited resources. So working with the Truckee Police Department, definitely Placer County, Sierra County, El Dorado County, Washoe County. It's just lovely to have great partnerships up here and making sure that we can get the work done. So love to answer anybody's questions. Yeah.
Many moons ago, my husband was a volunteer for the search and rescue, canine search and rescue. I didn't see him in the picture. Do you guys still have that program?
Yes.
I didn't see the dog.
Yes. So one of the great things about the our search and rescue unit is we have every dog for CARTA. So we have the scent dogs for people, we have evidence dogs, we have gun dogs, we have cadaver dogs, and we have the avalanche dogs. So not a lot of agencies have checked the mark for all canine deployment on their search and rescue teams, and we do. So lovely. Thank you. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Hi.
What is Nevada County's role, or Nevada County Sheriff's role in evacuation procedures and operations? I know with the town of Truckee, also having jurisdiction, I'm just curious how that works. Placer County, obviously, it's pretty much just the sheriff's office on that side, so just wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, a lot of that is through that collaboration. So as a sheriff, I am the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the county, but we have to work well with our partners. So on the western side, if a fire happens in the city of Grass Valley's jurisdictions, those police officers start with evacuations. Up here, if it's in the town jurisdiction, clearly it would start with the Truckee Police Department. What we do at the Office of Emergency Services is try to make sure that we're doing all the planning that we need, so that staff know where the locations are and what the mapping looks like, and know the roadways. When we're 25 positions down and we start hiring a lot of people, we spend a lot of time just in orientation of what our county looks like. If you're not born and raised here, you might not know how to get around in the county. So we spend a lot of front-end time on orientation. So a lot of the evacuation process, and the reason why it's not a CAL FIRE jurisdiction for evacuations is typically is because we're ordering people out of their homes. It's got to be a law enforcement officer, but a police officer can do it just as easily as a sheriff's deputy. We try to make sure that we're coordinated, and we want to make sure that we have resource deployment down. And our search and rescue team, wonderful people, we started having them also be on our fire incident command, and they help us really make sure we map out our resources so we know where all of the staff are, because it's also pretty dangerous for staff to be out doing evacuations. All right, Lynn, thank you.
All right, thank you, Nevada County Sheriff Shannon Moon. Up next, we have Stacy Caldwell, who is the CEO of Truckee Tahoe Community Foundation, and she's here to tell us about Forest Futures, which is a campaign to ensure healthy forests today, tomorrow, and forever. And there's going to be a first round of $1 million in Forest Future grants. And so, Stacy, tell us all about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Raven. Good to see you. Good morning. Sheriff Moon, Jesse, really nice to follow y'all. Thanks for everything y'all do for our community. Really appreciate it. I'm Stacy Caldwell. I'm the CEO of the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation, and it's so refreshing to see everybody today and to our virtual audience. Glad that you could join us this morning. Today, I'm here to update you on our Forest Futures campaign. And I'm not sure who all has heard of this work. I'd be curious if it's made it into the community. Has anybody heard about the Forest Futures work that's happening at the Community Foundation? Okay, good. Well, then I get to educate. That's great. So let's just start with who the Community Foundation is. Nope, maybe not. Try that again. So we have a mission to connect people and opportunities, generating resources to build a more caring, creative, and effective community. Technically, we are a 501c3, but we're a community foundation, which is a little different than most 501c3s. I don't know why. Oh, I can't watch that one. Sorry. Yeah, so there are 800 community foundations around that across the country, and we each serve our unique geography. And it really is what's pertinent to the community that we serve. And we work with the resources available that we can deploy. So for our community foundation, we have a number of different programs that you might be familiar with. Our oldest program, and in fact it's older than the Community Foundation itself, is the Community Collaborative. And this is where Allison Schwedner and Christina Kind work to pull together the different health and human service organizations throughout our community. There's more than 45 of them who participate to share resources and align strategies, because it is a small community that we live in. Many of the families that one nonprofit serves are the same families that another nonprofit serves. And so it's important for us to get together and really focus on what is going on and how we can address it. And so this is where we have more recently been focusing on mental and behavioral health. In fact, we're releasing a strategic plan for behavioral health in our region, which is a little more complicated because it crosses 2 counties and a town, as you know. So it's really important for our community to know our own data, know our own strategies. So we're excited about the work there. We've also been focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, ensuring that more representation and more voices from our diverse community members are at the table in decision making and helping guide the resources at the Community Foundation throughout the community. And then another big project we've been working on is what's called COAD. It's a best practice around California. It's called Community Organizations Activated in Disaster. So we know there are experts who come together to help us get through a disaster, but then what happens after a disaster oftentimes is a bit of a scramble. And so we're really upping our game as a region, learning from COVID, learning from the wildfires, and making sure that as the whole spectrum of the community is engaged in that work. Mountain Housing Council, focused on housing. It is in its 5th year. Lots to celebrate there. We have about 30 partners engaged in that work. And again, in all of these programs, we have Nevada County sitting at the table and informing this work, as well as Placer in the town and a myriad of nonprofits. And then many of us know us for our community grant making. And right now we're heavy into scholarships. And of course, we showed up during emergency response, both with COVID and the recent fires. So we do a lot of work at the Community Foundation, and today we're here to talk about our forest futures. So for the last 4+ years, we have been focused on really what can a community foundation do with this really big challenging issue that we face with our forests. And it really started with the bark beetle infestation climbing up the Sierra and wondering, are we going to have the same tree mortality issues that the rest of the Sierra was facing? But soon on the heels of that, the catastrophic wildfires throughout California started happening. And so our position shifted a little more in what are we going to do to kind of protect our community. And so our vision is really to ensure a healthy forest for generations to come. It's a lot of the reason why many of us are here is because of the beautiful forests that we live in, and we want to see that to be able to hand it off to the next generation. We want to we want to accelerate sustainable forest management. We know that we have to do things differently, and we need to really take a fast clip to protect our own community. And then finally, we want to explore and accelerate market-based solutions, because we believe that our forests worked for our community in the past, and we want to see our forests go to work for our community in the future. And so really thinking about sustainable business models that we can introduce into and align with forest management, good forest management projects. And so the areas of impact that we will measure over this campaign, which is a $30 million campaign, is to protect our communities, to build new infrastructure for a forest economy, because we're missing some important pieces of our infrastructure to stimulate market-based solutions, and then to be able to invest and accelerate those market-based solutions. I'm excited to share that since our official launch late summer, early September of last year, we've raised more than $3 million. $1 million has already gone out the door. And that has really has focused on the protect area. Right now, we really need to do the non-sexy things like defensible space, fire evacuation routes, fire breaks, early warning detection. So that was our biggest investment in this first round of funding. But we also focused on that second area of building the forest economy, that infrastructure. We did some really great grant making in our workforce. And that is going to have to be a steady beat for us for the next decade in this region, is to really build up the workforce to support a healthy forest management process. And so these grants went to 11 different projects, 9 different organizations. So in that protect category, actual tangible acres that are receiving fuels management, almost 900 acres. And you can see that we've partnered with the National Forest Foundation, which is really the implementation arm of the Forest Service, and the Truckee Donner Land Trust. This is the point where a lot of people wonder, why do we need philanthropy to take this issue on? Isn't there a lot of money coming in from the state and from the federal government to take this on? I'm happy to report that the state budget has actually nearly tripled for this type of work. 2 years ago, it was a third of what we have today. And most of it was going to the reaction of after the fire, right? It wasn't going to the preventative. So the wheels of change are happening at the federal and state level around forest management. But even when a project is the beneficiary of the public dollars, there are gaps that the public dollars don't fund. And so one of these projects was actually a fire break project, and they ran out of money. And so the fire break is what saved Christmas Valley in the Caldor fire. So we asked our partners on the ground, what's missing here? What's really urgent? And we brought the dollars to bear for these projects. There's really important work happening on the planning and recovery. So I'm happy to report that we're actually investing in recovery efforts from the Dixie Fire. We have a lot to learn from communities that are going through this, especially with the same kind of ecosystem and environmental assets. And so we were able to give funding to a interdisciplinary approach to recovery with the Dixie Fire to the Feather River Land Trust. I'm also excited to share that we have scaled the Tahoe Forest Service's planning operations by investing in a data commons tool that they can use to use all different types of data set to help them prioritize based on labor, based on dollars, based on density, whatever the filters are that they want to put into a project, look at our region and help make some decisions around the priorities of where they need to focus their efforts. And then finally, the Truckee River Watershed Council is leading a landscape level project with multiple organizations and really being kind of the collaborative ringmaster to significant work taking place in our region. And we want to see more of that kind of collaborative landscape level work. And so we're excited to see these dollars go to some of our trusted, tried and true missions that we all know in a different way than we traditionally would deploy in competitive grant making. Very targeted work. And then finally, this is really exciting stuff. We have a workforce development issue in forest management. And what we have done is we've put together what I like to think of as a blended portfolio of solutions that focus on the workforce for the forest. And what you see here is really kind of a play at different parts of your life. So we've got high school students coming in from urban areas, serving rural communities, learning about forest management. We have after college internships and fellowships to help people along the way in their career, get them started. We have kind of your traditional big workforce player that is, doing workforce development in other industries, but they're focusing now on the forest. So like mid-level career, helping you get through that. And then finally being able to bring the MyDo Summit Consortium, indigenous practices, not only kind of embedded in forest management, providing jobs for those tribal members coming out of the Dixie Fire, but more importantly, building a new economic opportunity. So it's just exciting. And I think what's unique about the way TTCF does our grant making, and particularly with Forest Futures, and this is really kind of borrowed from the page of the way we did emergency response during COVID, is we worked really closely with our on-the-ground partners to shape, and again, I'll call it a portfolio, but another way to talk about it is, if each one of our nonprofits was an ingredient, and you said, well, I really want an apple, I'd say go eat that apple, because if you have a favorite nonprofit that's here, go for it. Go give to them directly. It's an important thing to do. But what we're doing is we're almost putting together like the recipe. We're like the chefs, and we're looking at it from a collaborative and a regional scale, and making sure that there aren't too many apples over here and not enough apples over there. And so that's really what is unique about the Forest Futures. In phase 2, we have a pipeline that focuses on coordination of all of our Firewise communities. So if you can imagine, there are a lot of Firewise communities and HOAs, and some that are not served by HOAs. And each one of those is volunteer-based. And so there's some work to do to make sure that they're all coordinated, and also that the fire districts have the support that they need to manage volunteer-based community efforts. We're also investing in community college programming, both in forestry and in fire prevention and fire defense. We have continued work in that first area, that first category of protect, with green waste processing. We can all do our work, but if we don't have in our yards, but if we don't have a place to take it, we continue to keep the green waste in our region. And so we're working closely, again, with all of our jurisdictions and other regional players to make sure we have a smart strategy for how to do that. And it's going to be a lot of different solutions. There's never really one silver bullet here. And then finally, very exciting, we will be announcing a business competition in order to stimulate that entrepreneurial activity that we want to be able to see kind of coming out of the protect and the infrastructure area. So we invite you to engage with us. We have a monthly salon series. The next one is actually about evacuation preparedness. And Sheriff Moon, if you haven't been invited already, we definitely want you at that. And we also have recorded all of our salons, which provide really good content as community members. And I will just say, not only if you go to our YouTube account will you see the Forest Future salons, but you'll also see Mountain Housing Council meetings. You'll also see community collaborative meetings. So it's a great resource, whether you're on our website or on our YouTube channel, to really kind of get aware and educated about what's going on. We're looking for people who want to join us. We're looking for donors. $30 million campaign is the biggest and boldest thing that our community foundation has ever done in our almost 25 years of existence. And so it shows you how important we believe this work is. We'll continue to support our other areas that we're focused on. We will not take our foot off the pedal on those, but this is really important work, and we all know that coming out of the summer last year. So with that, I want to thank everybody for allowing me to share that. So thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, again, thank you, Stacy Caldwell, the CEO of TTCF. And now we have Alfred Knotts, who is the Transit Program Manager for the town of Truckee, here to talk about Measure U and the Truckee Trail measures that is on the ballot coming up in June. Thanks, Alfred.
Good morning. I don't have a presentation today, formal PowerPoint or anything, so I will walk through some details of Measure U. If I refer to it, Measure R, that's the current tax initiative. And I had a 1,000-mile round trip over the weekend to Laguna Beach and back, so I got home last night at 11:30, so experienced a little sleep deprivation and climatic shock on top of each other. So, but what I do want to do is give the opportunity to the group today and the community just in general on information. The town is proposing to renew the sales tax measure. Again, if I go back and forth between Measure R and Measure U, Measure R is the existing, which you will see on a ballot on June 7th is Measure U. And what that is the renewal of that sales tax measure. So the measure that currently is in place, and I'll refer to it that way, I'll refer to it as a sales tax, trail sales tax. So that was passed in 2014. That is a quarter-cent sales tax. It goes to maintenance and construction of the trail system that I know we're all very fond of. And I think another important thing to refer or kind of give this some context also is, what do trails really mean to our community? They mean a lot of things. They mean environmental benefit. They mean just quality of life. They mean economic development. But I also think what we've seen over the last couple of years also, and this is kind of fortuitous, is that trails have really shown that value added in terms of mental health also through COVID. We saw just nationwide and even through the town and just the recreational and trails world also is utilization is skyrocketed, and it's also, I think, a important thing to reference too is the equity it provides in our trail system and our transportation system. Everybody can invest in roads, but not everybody has a car. So walking and bicycling in our community is very important to folks that seek mobility in other terms, and also just is a really the backbone of our community. Another thing is to give a context too is those council priorities that are on the wall as well. That guides what we do over the next couple of years. And in terms of investment and how we spend staff time, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, enhancing community and public outreach to facilitate community cohesion. That's essentially why I'm here today also, is to get some information out, build the dialogue, answer any questions you may have, and invest in key infrastructure. Again, the town has done a great job. I've only been here 8 months, but I'm very familiar with the area. I worked in Tahoe for 18 years, in Park City before that, or after that. And the town has always been kind of and I was the trails manager in the whole basin. The town has been kind of the apple eye of the whole trail network outside of the basin, but just very progressive in a sense too. So for the next measure, what we'll be proposing and what you'll see on the ballot, to again kind of keep that process going and to keep that investment going is the current sales tax, the trails tax is quarter-cent right now. It generates about $1.5 to $1.7 million per year. Our trails are very expensive. Again, I was just in Laguna Beach over the weekend, and being a trails kind of nerd and dork, I look at the trails there, and they're beautiful, and they've done a great job there. And I kind of compare everything that we've kind of done around here in the town, and the areas that we build and plan for are very context sensitive. A lot of them along the river or crossing the river, and so they are very expensive. It costed about $2.5 million per mile. I was the project manager for the East Shore Bike Trail over there at Sand Harbor from Incline. That was about $10 million per mile. So you never know what you're going to get. So, and the next couple of projects that we're going to see, and you'll see that tonight on the council agenda with the legacy trails, I won't call them low-hanging fruit because it's all relative, but the next couple of projects that we'll be proposing are very expensive. They require river crossings, structures, things like that, railroad crossings, as well as providing that kind of last mile, those connections that we have within the system. So the next proposal you'll see, and again, the vote that'll go before the voters is June 7th. That'll be a half a cent versus a quarter cent. So that'll generate close to that $3 to $3.5 million. The other difference is this current authorization of measure of the sales tax initiative that currently exists will expire in 2024. So there's a 10-year horizon or authority, which you will see on the sales tax on the ballot, is that this would be proposed until voters deem it non-necessary or vote to kind of sunset the sales tax itself. So With that, I'll give a little background on our system as well. I know I talked to it a little bit here, but about 8.5 million has been generated to date, which you'll see on the, again, on the agenda tonight for council. You'll see a very, very expensive project, and the bulk of that money that's been collected is proposed to go to the next phase of the legacy trail. So that will draw down a lot of our revenues existing. But that does not eliminate what the next projects are, or what's remained to be constructed in our Trails Master Plan. So over the next 20 years, we look to, or proposed is about 19 million, or 19 more miles, with an estimated cost of $47 million. We're looking to focus more, and I know the Trails Foundation did a survey recently, and we've collected information and data as well as dirt trails or organic trails are highly valued within the community too, and that's something that we want to emphasize and place some more emphasis on, and more emphasis over the next 20 years or life of the ballot sales tax, if it should pass. That would, within our Trails Master Plan, there's 29 miles identified for that, to a close about $92 million over the life of the Trails Master Plan to be fully implemented. With that, we've invested in this system. With that investment comes a lot of maintenance requirements as well, to make sure that things are maintained, and we really kind of invest within our system. So maintenance of that facility will also be a big portion of the next initiative as well, and it's something we spent money on and a lot of emphasis on over the last couple of months and years, is also winter maintenance as well. So with that, I know we are tight on time, so I will hand it back over. And again, this is I really want to get out information and then be able to answer any questions. And we do have information on our website as well, on our engineering and trails links on our pages.
All right, thank you. Alfred Knotts, Transit Program Manager, Town of Truckee, and I assume you can Google Measure U and it'll lead you to a website at the Town of Truckee. There'll be information. All right, so we're going to open it up for Stump Speeches, and I am told that we have a few this morning. So Lynn, you want to?
Yeah, I have one from Town Council Member Anna Klostad, and it goes very well with Stacy's presentation. She wanted to invite everyone to see the Forest Fire Art exhibit that's at the Truckee Rec Center. It's a journey through time, exploring how forest we live in has changed over 150 years. Through art, it will help you understand the truly complex ecosystem that we are fortunate to live in. All the art pieces were done by local artists. It's inspirational, it's educational, and it's only around for about another month through June 15th. So I encourage you to go up there, as does Anna, and if you would like a tour with the co-creators, you can reach out to her at Anna or truckee@gmail.com. Second one is the Chamber would like to invite you to a Big Life Connections event. It's May 22nd, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Truckee River Winery. And these events are intended to help our newer residents, as well as the whole community, come together, meet each other, connect with each other, engage with the community, get to know our businesses and the people behind the businesses. I mean, there's a fascinating story with the Truckee River Winery, and they've got just a charming facility. Finally, the last announcement, Stump Speeches from me. After 20 years with the Chamber as President and CEO, I will be retiring at the end of this year. You may have seen the announcement that came out last week. So it's a great job. It's a dream job I've had for 20 years to be an integral part of this community. And so if you or anyone you know is interested in this amazing position, go to Truckee.com and you can see how to apply, the job description and all of that. So I will be here for another 8 months, so you don't get rid of me yet. But it's a great job, and I truly hope that there is some local talent out there that we can find. Thank you.
And very, very big shoes to fill as well, so yeah. All right, we're going to do a raffle, and we have 2 items here. We got a $20 gift certificate to Grizzly Menswear, and if you don't know where that is, it's in the Raleigh Shopping Center, and it's a great store with cool stuff for guys, and I think it's all guys because it's menswear. So we'll start with the ticket here, which is 952937. All right.
I'll step in quickly and say that there is a mixer May 25th at the Soaring Ranch, including Grizzly Menswear. So please come out and join us there.
Congrats.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have a Truckee Big Truck hat, and we will go with 952938. Oh, at TTCF. All right, well, that concludes our Good Morning Truckee. Thanks to all the presenters and for all of you that came out. We hope to see some more people in person next time around. And if not, you can always join online and watch later at Truckee.com or TahoeTruckeeMedia.com. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate it, and have yourself a good day.